I'm truly not exaggerating when I say this might be the best pasta dish I've cooked on this channel this year. So I've seen a few plays on this, but this is going to be a very simple caramelized shallot pasta with a little bit of like a red cream sauce. Here are a bunch of shallots that I'm cutting into 1/8-inch size strips. You want them to be big enough that they can handle cooking down as they caramelize without turning into mush, and also consistently cut that they'll all caramelize at the same pace. If you need to walk away for a second to get the burning out of your eyes, I recommend that because these hurt. But this amount here, this was like 4 or 5 shallots, is good for around 2 or 3 people. So you're definitely going to need a larger pile than you think you will. And then to that, we're going to add a little bit of tomato paste and then anchovy paste. I know that's a weird one, especially for this channel, but it really adds a good depth. We're going to start by cooking down these shallots, and we're going to use a good quality olive oil because we're not going to cook these at a super high heat, so you don't need to worry about smoke point and burning the oil. So use the best quality olive oil you have and throw those in while they're nice and cold. That will help with the cooking down to bring them up to temperature nice and gently. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt and let these do their thing for probably 10 or 15 minutes. Right off the bat, move them around a little bit, get oil on all of them so they don't start to burn and get brown spots, and then just let them go. That's as hard as you want to cook them during this process. You could even cook them a little bit less than that. Move them fairly regularly. If you see some browning more than others, adjust that and just let them go and do their thing. That's the goal. You could take them even a little further than that, but I'm going to let these cook for another few minutes with a bunch of other things in the pan. So that's as far as I'm going to take them. And now what we're going to do is add in a tiny little splash of white wine. This will start to bring that depth of flavor, a little bit of acidity, and some sweetness into the dish. And now we're going to cook this on a little higher of a temperature for the next minute or two to really cook off that wine and leave just its great flavors behind. You can see at this point here, there's really no liquid left. There's a little bit there, but that's just from the oil and everything else left over. The wine is cooked off. And at that point, we're going to add in a tiny bit of that anchovy paste. This, I think, is kind of a subtle star of the show. It gives a real umami and depth to this dish that will break it up from any other kind of red, creamy pasta you're making. Let that cook for a minute or two until you don't see any big clumps in there. And then we're going to go ahead and add in the tomato paste. We're going to add in probably about a tablespoon's worth. You can add a little more, a little bit less. Mix that fairly thoroughly. Make sure your heat's not too high that you're going to burn it, but you do want to cook it. At this point, I'm also going to drop my pasta because that should time out perfectly. And then let that tomato paste cook until you get that beautiful rust color. That's right what we're looking for. If you want to cook it even a little more, you can, but I'm going to add in probably 1/4 cup of cream at this point and give that a good mix, and that's the basis of this sauce. I know it seems like it's just your kind of standard cream-based red pinkish sauce, but it's not. There's flavors in here from the shallots and the anchovy paste that are really going to give you that depth of flavor that is not anything you've experienced unless you've made this before. As you can see right off the bat, it gets very, very thick. So the first thing we're going to do is, as that pasta cooks, I'm going to throw in a few little tablespoons of the starchy pasta water because I don't want this to get overly thick. This will just give it the opportunity to simmer for a minute or two and burn off that water without reducing too much and becoming really gloopy. If that happens, it's fine. Just add the pasta water. You can even add another splash of cream, but that's the consistency I'm looking for prior to the pasta going in. And then once that pasta was done, we drained it because we do want to limit the amount of water coming in here to get the consistency right. I'm going to add just a touch back in and then just mix this thoroughly. You can see it'll immediately coat the pasta beautifully. You can still see some pieces of the shallot, but there aren't huge chunks left, and that's what you're looking for. It's really kind of melted into the sauce, but enough that you'll taste them, but you're not getting huge chunks of onion. I'm going to add in just a little more pasta water just to get this the right creamy sheen that I'm looking for, and that's perfect. Now we're going to plate it up. If you're serving this as just a little appetizer, that's the perfect portion right there, but you know, I'm a little chubby boy at the moment, so we're going to cook a lot more of this pasta for ourselves and then scrape out everything. You want to get all of that shallot that's left behind, every little piece, bring that out. Top it with a little bit of cheese. Honestly, if you're making a cream sauce, you normally put the cheese right in the sauce, but that's what also makes this different. It's not overloaded on that cheese flavor. And now we're going to dig in. I didn't really know what to expect with this dish. I don't mess around a lot with anchovy paste or cooking down shallots that far, but this is really, really good. It has the initial taste of any kind of pink tomato-based cream sauce, but immediately it turns into something different. You get a sweetness from the caramelized shallots that also have a really good depth of flavor, and then you get that little anchovy-ness that's just kind of umami. This is way different than anything you've ever tasted. You need to try it.